Hey folks, today we want to do a little shot shell comparison. The two shells we're going to be comparing are both BBs. So this is a lead BB. It is made by Hornady. It's their heavy Magnum Coyote loads. It has an ounce and a half of BBs in a 3-inch 12-gauge shell, and they're moving at 1,300 feet per second. And we're going to compare them to these Federal Steel shot. These are steel BBs. They are also 3-inch 12-gauge loads, and these have an ounce and a quarter of the steel BB in them. These would be used for goose hunting. These would be used for predator hunting. So we're going to shoot a 3-shot group from each of these at a target at 30 yards, or 12-inch bullseye targets. I have the Remington 870 here with the full choke, and we're going to see what kind of performance we get out of these two. We're going to compare them at the end, and we're going to see how many hits that we got of each in the 8-inch circle. And at the end, I'll tell you why they performed the way they did. Alright, so today we'll be using a Remington 870. This is a 3.5-inch chambered 12-gauge. It has a 28-inch barrel, and today we'll be using the full rim choke, which is the factory choke. And we'll be using this particular choke because it is marked for lead and steel. We'll be shooting both lead and steel BBs today. So we have our usual 12-inch target down there at 30 yards. We'll be shooting these BBs at that. So let's get started and do some shooting. So first up, we have the Hornady Heavy Magnum Coyote loads. This is a 3-inch BB. It's the lead one. Alright, I can see BBs on the target down there. Alright, so we've shot the Hornadys, the first shot. Let's shoot it another time at this here target down here at 30 yards. Alright, we're going to mark those holes and we'll shoot it one more time. Alright, here we go with the last shot with the Hornady BBs, the lead ones. Alright, we're going to switch targets, and now we're going to shoot 3 shots with the steel ones. Alright, so now that we've shot the Hornady BBs, let's shoot these Federal Steel BBs and see how they compare to the lead. Alright, we're going to put stickers over those holes, and then we'll shoot a couple more times. Alright, let's shoot a second shot with these steel BBs at a 30-yard target. Here we go. Alright, we're going to go down there and sticker these, and we'll shoot the third shot. That one kind of swole a little bit. Alright, let's shoot this third steel BB down there, and then we're going to compare these two targets. I took out the clip. Alright, we're going to sticker this one, and then we're going to compare the two targets. Alright, so here we have the two targets that we shot with the BBs. So, over here we have the one that we shot with the Federal Steel BBs. And if you remember, this is a 3-inch 12-gauge load with an ounce and a quarter of steel BBs in it. And here's the shell. And here is the wadding for this particular load. The BBs make nice big craters in those shot cups, don't they? All right. And here we have the Hornady Heavy Magnum caliber loads. These are the lead BBs. And if you remember, this is a 3-inch 12 gauge load as well, but it has 1.5 ounces of lead in it. And here is the shell for that particular load. Clearly marked. I like this nice big lettering on these. And here is the shot cup, kind of like a federal flight control shot cup. That would be the end that would be the back end, and that's the front end. Now, if we look at these targets, you can clearly see that the steel targets have more holes in the 8-inch circle. We've put more stickers here than we have on the lead. So you would think that this is patterning better than the lead, but it actually is not. So we have 20% of the total payload from the 3 shots in the 8-inch circle. We have 40% of the 3 shots total payload in the 12-inch circle on both these targets. I said that the steel has 1.25 ounce load, and the lead has 1.5 ounce load. But clearly, we have more hits in the 8-inch circle than we do with the lead. And that is the difference between steel and lead right there. Even though this is 1.25 ounce load, it has 90 pellets per shell. Whereas the lead being 1.5 ounces only has 75 because lead is heavier than steel. The lead is heavier and denser than the steel is. The lead also deforms easier. When it hits a target, it deforms and transfers its energy immediately. Whereas steel, it simply buries itself in the target and it doesn't transfer its energy as well. So that's what I wanted to show you, the difference between the lead and the steel. The lead is heavier, but it has less pellets because it's heavier. But I say it's more efficient at transferring energy and taking game than the steel. But the steel, in places and with certain game, that's all you can use is non-toxic shot. And when we first started having to use non-toxic shot, steel was pretty much the only choice that I remember. I came up, we could still use lead to hunt everything. And then then we got the non-toxic regulations and we had to start using steel. The general rule was to shoot 2 sizes bigger with steel to compensate for the lack of knockdown power as compared to the lead. Nowadays we have other non-toxic shots that are denser and heavier and that transfer the energy better than steel, but I still use steel because I got used to it. But anyway, if I have a choice, I'll always pick the lead BBs over the steel BBs. But if I don't have a choice, I'll shoot the steel ones too. So until next time, y'all stay safe when you hunt your coyotes or when you're in the duck blind. And God bless. And there was a tick on the target. And I saw it.